The engines and Mr. Lance were nervous. An inspector was coming to the railway to inspect the line. Some older engines, like Alan, Aberdeen, and Alec, weren't too worried about this. However, the younger engines like Justin and John were very nervous. Mr. Lance had arrived at the sheds. "All right, engines, tomorrow's the day. The inspector will be arriving." "I'm really nervous." "Sir, who will be taking the inspector?" "That duty will go to Alec." "Sir, really? But what about the yard?" "Justin can take care of that." "All right, sir." "So, sir, will Alec be using one of the regular coaches?" "Well, we have one special coach reserved for inspections. That was used for the last inspection." "Yes, indeed, engines. Now, you should all get some sleep. Tomorrow will be a very busy day." Mr. Lance walked away, leaving the engines to fall asleep, thinking about the inspection. At the coal stage, Justin, Penn, and Aberdeen were having a chat. "So, I wonder how this inspection'll fare." "I wouldn't worry about it. I'd just treat it like the average inspection." "You're probably right. I just hope the inspector doesn't tip Mr. Lance into giving us an engine like Basil." "Who's Basil?" "He's a grumpy shunter that arrived for the lumber yard. Trust me, you do not want to get on his bad side." "I see." "Anyways, I'm off to collect your coaches." "Alright then, Justin." At Sandsworth, another engine had brought in the inspector. Alec had arrived at Sandsworth. He was feeling very tired, as he had got up very early. "Ah, Mr. Lance." "Ah, hello there. Well, it seems so far you have a lovely railway. However, I don't approve of you using such an old-fashioned engine on this inspection." "Old-fashioned? Let me tell you." "Anyways, I believe we should get this inspection started." After the other engine had left, Alec got into the other platform and set off with the train. The first stop on the line was Rosworth. Alec felt pretty good about the station, as this was the capital of the whole railway. Just then, Penn rolled through the station. He was moving quite quickly, as this was a very special train. An LSWR N15, not one of the best decisions in my opinion. Well, I think he was a good choice. I mean, he shows such dedication to the line despite not being an LNER engine. I see. Soon, Alec was clear to leave the station. He was worried, however. He didn't want Penn to leave the line if the inspector thought badly of him. Soon, around 10 o'clock, Alec had arrived at Armandale station. Stewart and Aberdeen were there having a chat when they saw the J-83 come in. So this is Armandale station. I must say, for a junction station I am impressed. However, I don't think I want to visit the branch line. I presume it's doing as well as it did last year. Oh yes, the profits have been up. Good to hear. Well, I suppose that's a start, isn't it? I mean, if he's complimenting the station and the branch line. Yeah, I suppose. Let's just hope he has good things to say about the line in general. I mean, I don't want it to get shut down. Now, try not to think about that. Try and think about after the inspection, you know? How good it'll be to have that finished. It'll feel better when the inspection's over and done with and we've gotten our report. Oh, I suppose you're right. I mean, it'll feel pretty good to know we've done well. Soon, the inspection of Armandale was done, and Alec was clear to leave. arrived at Arthington Station. Now Alec was worried about this station, as some people could consider it to be a village and not that important. He didn't want the station to get shut down, as it was very tranquil. To add to that, the lumberyard was a good source of revenue for the line. However, he knew that around this time, either John or Bradford would be there to pick up a lumber supply. As predicted, John was the engine who was taking the lumber train. However, he was in an argument with Basil. "Listen, Basil, I need this lumber train. After all, it's mine. Mr. Lance said that this was a train I was supposed to pick up specifically. Last I heard, this train was meant for Bradford, not you. You trying to steal it, John?" "Honestly, what's your problem with me? All I want to do is take my train and do my job, and you're preventing me from that." "Listen, this isn't your train. I wasn't told about this, so therefore, this train remains here, you understand that?" "You know what? I ain't got time for this. I'm gonna get the train myself." "Oh, no you don't." Just then, Basil moved forward. John was surprised. However, Basil bumped John hard. The larger tank engine was surprised by this. He tried using his brakes, but then remembered a rough patch near the lumber yard. As he continued to move, he felt his wheels start to move off the track. "Now what on earth was that for? I mean, you didn't have to go that far and push me, you know, Basil." "You should have just listened to me in the first place, John. Then this wouldn't have happened." "It shouldn't have happened at all." Basil and John looked down to see Mr. Lance and the inspector. Mr. Lance had a look of fury on his face, directed towards Basil. "Basil, you should know better than this. I mean, what were you thinking, bumping John off the rails like this?" Well, you see, sir, Listen, I could hear your argument all the way from the station, and the train that you had over there was actually meant for John. Bradford had another train to take. You see, I was right." "Well, this'll make for an interesting report." "Will you need to go to the works, John?" "Nah, I should be fine. Just need to get back on the rails and take my train." "Alright then, John." Alec had heard everything from the station. As the two men got back into the coach, Alec really wondered just how bad the report might be after this. He arrived at Vale. The station was rather busy. Bradford had a goods train, and Simon was preparing to take one of his stopping passenger services. "Hello, mate. How's it going so far?" "Hopefully it all went good." Basil bumped John off the rails. "Who really? That tiny tank engine? Alright, you gotta admit though, that's pretty impressive." "I mean, not for this railway inspection report." I mean, after this, he's probably got quite a bit to say about our railway now. Oh, that's a good point. Anyways, I hope John's alright. I've got to go take this stopping passenger train. Simon left with the passenger train. As he did, he shared the same concerns that Alec did. The inspector, after looking around Lowfell, hopped onto Simon's train that would be stopping off at Sandsworth so he could go back to London. Alec went over to the sheds to have a decent rest after his long journey. Later in the evening, Mr. Lance came to the sheds to give the day's report. All right, engines. Today the report was given in full. So, to start off, we are doing good. No stations are getting closed down whatsoever, and we actually seem to be doing pretty well profit-wise. Oh, that's good to hear, sir. Yes, indeed. He was very pleased by how the railway ran. I take it he wasn't pleased at how Basil had bumped me off the rails. He did what? Ah, that Santa really is trouble. Yeah, he wasn't too happy about that. However, thankfully you're alright, John. Now, engines, I suggest that you all get some sleep, because I know for a fact that tomorrow will be a very busy day. As the engines went to sleep, Pan was the last to go to sleep. He found it strange that Mr. Lance was very quick to mention about the profits. He didn't realize that the next year, 1930, and future years would be some of the toughest years the Rosworth Vale would experience.